Hello again, 8th graders. Today we're going to be working with Lesson 1-8A, Identifying and Using Properties. Some of this will be review. The first property we're going to talk about is the commutative property of addition and multiplication. In the commutative property, you look for if the order of the numbers has been changed. And the truth is, if you change the order of the numbers, it's not going to change the results. If we look at this with arithmetic, 2 plus 5 is 7, and 5 plus 2 is 7. For multiplication, 2 times 5 is 10, and 5 times 2 is 10. So the order of the numbers doesn't change. Now, sometimes in working with numbers, people find that if they work with something like 2 times 5, they don't have a problem. But what if they're working with something like 4 times 25? Some people find it easier to think of that problem as 25 times 4. Now, the fact that you can do that is using the commutative property, and it will often make a problem easier to do with either mental math or with paper pencil. The thing is that this year in 8th grade, you might be finding yourself looking at a few more things with algebra. So just to be aware that if we have a plus b, that is equal to b plus a, or if we take a times b, that's equal to b times a. The associative properties also work for addition and multiplication. With the associative property, changing the grouping of the numbers will not change the result. If we look at the arithmetic examples, 4 plus 7 is 11. 11 plus 3 gives us a result of 14. However, if I would start with 7 plus 3 instead, that's 10, then add my 4, I'm still going to get 14. Now, for some people, looking for either sums or products that give you numbers such as 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, etc., or 100, 200, 300, etc., are just easier math to do. If you look at the second arithmetic problem, with multiplication, this is where associative property is really helpful. If we take 4 times 7, we're going to get 28, and then we take it times 3. However, if I reassociate and take 4 times 21, for some people, that 4 times 21 is a whole lot easier problem to do with mental math, because 4 times 21 is going to be 84. Now, yes, 28 times 3 is 84, but it's just a little harder because 3 times 8, okay, that's the 24, carry the 2. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 2 is 8. It's just a harder problem for some people to do. Where 4 times 21, 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, and it's much easier to do. You will start to see some of this in algebra in a later lesson, where we're going to be working with a different property as well. So you should be aware that it will also work with variables. The identity properties of addition and multiplication. Adding 0 to a number does not change its value. Multiplying by 1 does not change the value of a number. Now, for the arithmetic, 6 plus 0 is 6, or in the algebra, a plus 0 is a. We call this the identity of addition. Some people refer to it as the additive identity. So you should be aware that it has two names. Additive identity. In multiplication, 6 times 1 is 6. That is the identity property of multiplication. This is the abbreviation that we use. Or some books will refer to it as the multiplicative, quite a name, multiplicative identity. Our book will refer to it as the identity of addition or the identity of multiplication. Swinging back, if you're going to abbreviate associative property, please make sure that you call it the associative of addition. And if you're working with multiplication, that's going to be the associative of multiplication. Those are the abbreviations that we're going to use. And going back even to commutative, it would be commutative of addition or commutative of multiplication. Now we're going to practice, because one of the things you're going to do on your assignment is they're going to give you some problems. You are going to have to figure out if it's the identity of addition, identity of multiplication, associative of addition, associative of multiplication, commutative of addition, or commutative of multiplication. If we look at A, one of the first things I tell students is always make sure to check the order of the numbers in the problem. On the left side, it is 18 plus, and then in parentheses, 12 plus 16. On the right side, it's 18 plus 12 inside the parentheses plus 16. You will notice that they did not change the order, so it cannot be commutative. What they did change was where the parentheses go. What they did change was the grouping. When you change the grouping, that's associative. So this first one is going to be the associative of addition. In sample B, we have m plus 0 equals m, adding 0. Therefore, it is the identity of addition. Let's look at C. Can you figure out what's been changed? Yes, it's the order of the numbers. 6, negative 7, 3 versus 6, 3, negative 7. Since the order of the numbers has been changed, this is commutative of multiplication since it's multiply. Look at D. Can you figure out which one it is? It is the identity of multiplication since you are multiplying by 1. Try E. What do you notice happening? Remember, first of all, have they changed the order of the numbers? No. Did they change the grouping of the numbers? Yes. On the left side, it's 16 times 4, but on the other side, it's 4 times 25. So this is the associative of multiplication. I would just like to point out in sample E, this is one where it's far easier to do it if you associate the 4 times the 25. Let's take a look at the left side. 16 times 4 is 64. You would have to take 64 times 25. That's a paper pencil problem. For most of you, that's going to be a grab the calculator problem. But look at the right side. 4 times 25 gives me 100. 100 times 16 is very easy to do with mental math to be 1,600 or 1,600. Again, your goal, see if you can find some way to put the numbers together to make a 10, a 20, a 30, a 40, a 50, etc. Or a 100, 200, 300, 400, etc. If you've got decimals, can you put them together to make whole numbers? The other part of the assignment is that you are going to have to use the properties to find answers for mental math. This one is a decimal problem. Key point with decimals. Look for decimals that add or multiply to whole numbers, or numbers that add to 10, 20, 30, etc. If we look at sample A, we will note 2.5 plus 7.5 is going to equal 10. If you had $2.50 and $7.50, you're going to have $10. So we use the commutative property to change the order. We would change it to 2.5 plus 7.5 plus 5.3, and that property is going to be our commutative property. Now we can go to the addition. 2.5 plus 7.5 is 10, plus our 5.3 is going to equal 15.3. A little easier to do mental math if you do the reassociation. Look at B. This is addition. Will anything that we wrote in sample A help us? Can we come up somehow with 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s? Yes, we can. We can reassociate the 26 plus the 34. Then add the negative 12. We have used the associative property of addition. So in this case, we've used the associative property. No, you will not have to write your properties out, but in the notes I often do. Now 26 plus 34 is going to give us 60 plus the negative 12. 60 plus negative 12 is going to result in 48. Look at C. Can you find some way to rearrange the numbers or reassociate the numbers so that you can make a 10, a 20, a 30, a 40, 50, etc., or a 100, 200, 300, etc.? I can take the negative 5 times the 8. You know what property that is? Yes, it's the commutative property. Now what I have is negative 40 times 7, which is a much easier problem to do than negative 35 times 8. Negative number, 7 times 4 gives me the 28, and 7 times that 0 gives me the 0. It's one of my shortcut problems. I'm multiplying by 10. Now that's much easier to do than negative 35 times 8 if you did not do any commutative work. These properties can be very, very powerful in working through mental math problems or to make the problem easier to do with paper pencil. And that's the end of this particular lesson, so scouting out.